Congresswoman Claudia Teddy, she has an event to get to, so we have about 5-6 more minutes with her on the phone. Claudia, still there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, good. I know you were trying to walk or get to your event, so just wanted to make sure we didn't lose you there. And we have a few more questions maybe to follow up on our discussion.
There was one that I want to throw out there for you, Claudia. Last week or whenever it was before Trump signed this executive order keeping the families together, before there was a lot of criticism that to do exactly that, stop separating families. He signs the executive order, and obviously there are some issues that they have to figure out how to do this and how to carry it out and actually follow through in it. But nevertheless, he tried to address that point, and then he still said to Congress, you guys need to fix this at the end of the day in order to solve the problem. So now here we are, and the Democrats are saying, well, now in terms of they've moved the goalposts, I guess some might suggest about it. Do the Democrats, is their position that they believe that nobody should be detained once especially if they're families, once they get apprehended at the border, if they're here illegally, they can be prosecuted, but they're not going to be detained. I guess it's the catch and release concept. They're put back out into the public while their whole proceedings carry out. They might have an ankle bracelet on or something like that. But a certain number of them don't show up to the hearings, and I guess what I've read, they just disappear and they never show up. I don't know what the percentage is. But is that a fair assessment of what the Democrats want? Are they looking to not hold anybody in any kind of detention when they're being prosecuted once they cross the border?
That's a good question. I have no idea what the Democrats stand for. What they do stand for, obviously, is catch and release, open borders, and anything.
What is your understanding of catch and release?
Catch and release is just what you described. It's like they detain people at the border, determine that they're illegal immigrants, and let them go, and say, you have a hearing next week, hope you show up.
Right.
And then they never pursue it. And so that's what they've been doing, and that's apparently what they support. And even though the Obama administration was also detaining and separating families, that wasn't a problem. It is a problem now because anything that comes out of the Trump administration, anything the Republicans propose, because we're Republicans, it has nothing to do with policy. It has nothing to do with what's good for the American people. It is just at all costs resist no position. And I think in the end, it's really a dangerous position for them to be in. It is not helping the American people. It's not safe, and they're trying to drag Republicans to such an extreme. And I'm going to argue that there's a lot of people that said, well, when the Republicans were in power, they did the same thing in Obama. Absolutely not true. President Obama got a record number, only exceeded by our House, actually, a record number of bills passed through a Republican Senate and a Republican House, because Republicans have always been willing to work with and compromise, always work with and compromise. And the Democrats refuse to do that, and we are willing to work with and compromise and come up with solutions. We're willing to go 2 steps forward and 1 step back because we know that in the end we have to act. But right now the Democrats are electing socialists. They're dealing with resist movement. They're threatening members. I'm like one of the famous members. I've been threatened with death threats for over a year. The very day that Steve Scalise got threatened, I got threatened right after that. And it continues to happen.
So what do you think about Maxine Waters' issue going on? Obviously, she's taken some heat for calling for harassment to some extent for those who don't support Trump and the administration. And I know that there's some individuals in the House that are trying to get together to have her either kicked out or censured or some sort of punishment for her comments. What's your thought on her action? I know Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi both commented as well that Chuck Schumer said it was un-American for somebody to suggest that people get harassed.
Right. Well, they're supporting her. She's the face of the Democratic Party, at least in the House, along with Nancy Pelosi. And I believe she's a donor to Anthony Brindisi's campaign, so he's accepting her money. And let me add one more thing. If we lose the House and someone like Anthony Brindisi gets elected in our district, Maxine Waters will become the chair of the House Financial Services Committee, the committee that regulates the national and the world economies. That's who the Democrats are going to be putting in charge of our economy that's reaching record highs, 4%, record unemployment across almost every sector. That is who is going to be ahead of the Financial Services Committee. If that doesn't scare people, and Anthony Brindisi will support that, and he will support Nancy Pelosi, even though he claims he doesn't support her. But let me just tell you, it's where the money is. He is taking maxed out donations from these Democrats, especially Nancy Pelosi, hundreds and hundreds of thousands, approaching $1 million already from Nancy Pelosi's super PAC. If Nancy Pelosi thought that Anthony Brindisi wasn't going to support her, she would cut off his money supply, but she hasn't done that yet. And let me tell you something, Joe Crowley, who is fourth in line, who just got defeated, was actually considering taking on Nancy Pelosi. That's not going to happen. These socialists have taken over this party, and Anthony Brindisi has shown that he doesn't have the strength to stand up to people, whether they're socialists, whether they're corrupt, and he has voted for 4 times for a socialist government-run healthcare system that will destroy all the great, even some of the ones that are better, the unions who have many good health plans, whether it's teachers, corrections officers, people in IBEW and various groups. All of their health care plans will be destroyed, and they will not have what they have today. They will get in line like many other of these socialist-run programs that failed. Vermont pulled out of this very same program when they realized that it would bankrupt the state of Vermont and it would be terrible for the people in their state. They backed out of this after right in time, actually. New York is heading down that path. That's what the Democrats are going to try to do. Anthony has voted for this 4 times. He's going to vote for it again. He's going to support Maxine for chair of the House Financial Services. He's going to vote for Nancy Pelosi. These are people who should not be running our government. I'm sorry. This is just a very, very critical election. And if we move down the path of the Maxine Waters and Nancy Pelosi's of the world, it's going to be a very, very tough time for this country. And I worry that, for our fate.
Mm-hmm. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney joining us here.
Thanks so much. I got to run, but I really appreciate it. Great seeing you guys. I'll be home, and happy 4th.
You got it. Thanks. Congresswoman Claudia Tenney joining us each and every Wednesday here on the Talk of the Town. She may join us in studio next week. As she just mentioned, she's going to be in the area. I just want to point out the American Nurses Association endorsed Anthony Brindisi for Congress, and that coming out yesterday, their support for Anthony for Congress, citing his record for advocacy for better health care and his commitment to advancing the interest of nurses. That from the press release yesterday. And I also wanted to point out, and I know she had to run, a program that Claudia is pushing, and this is the COPS program. This her office announced last week, I believe, yesterday. The Community-Oriented Policing Services, or COPS, accepting applications for the 2018 School Violence Prevention Program. So this program provides funding directly to states, units of local government, and Indian tribes to improve security at schools and on school grounds. Applications are due by the end of next month, July 30th at 8 o'clock. So law enforcement agencies and municipalities can apply for these grants, and I'm going to see if Alex can put that link up on our Facebook page as well. So if there are any law enforcement agencies, as I mentioned, there are tribes or government agencies that could utilize this program to help secure our schools from any violence, you could do so by applying for that grant, and they're due by the end of the month. So 8:14 here on the Talk of the Town. Talk of the Town brought to you by Mattress